So are Lee and Herb, are you okay with approving this stuff? That one?
Looking at the layout, the property shows heading from east to west. It shows a deep hole test at around 94, hole 1, and 92 at hole 2. So this is not a terrace system, correct? They're just going to cut out more at the 94 and level the whole thing up.
It is a level system, and what I looked at today in the approval of the Elgin designed by the state, Elgin says that they cannot be installed terrace. But it's funny because in their literature, they show it terrace, but definitely in the state approval, it says it's supposed to be level.
Dick, there's someone who's got an open mic that's creating a lot of excess audio.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Sounds like you got him.
Okay, we'll see. So, are we okay with this one?
I'm okay.
Yes.
I am too, Colleen, so that's approved. The next one is Bob Sheehan, lot 11 Chicopee Street. That is one of the Chalosky lots in that plain that's out on the corner of Chicopee and Carver Street, all deep sands. This particular one, this is for a 4-bedroom house, new construction, complete system, fees paid, reviews completed. It happens that I have some doubts about the two water tables. One that's at 139 inches, I think that's probably the right one. The other hole, not very far away, showed 88 inches, but the system is designed for models at the 88 inches, so regardless, that's where it is designed. It's a flat lot, and it was grassy. In fact, it was planted. It was the issue designed for the shallower models. The design is for 550 gallons a day with a 550 requirement, 1,500 gallon 2-compartment tank, 3 trenches that are 3 feet by 50 feet by 18-inch sidewalls without vents. The reserve area is between the trenches. Fill is required. Ballast is not required for this one. It's good separation to wells and wetlands. My suggestion on this one is to approve it subject to submission of a modified drawing that in the text and notes, it said it's a three-bedroom home, even though everything else on it, the calculations, the sizing, everything are done correctly for the 4-bedroom home. It was just a typo, and in fact, Bob was going to change that yesterday. And fill requirements in a trench permit.
That correction has been made, Dick.
Okay. Lee and Herb, this is a really straightforward system.
Looks straightforward to
Looking at the wetland map, or we're looking at lot 11, is that correct?
Lot 11.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I have no issue with anything here.
So, Colleen, that's approved.
Okay.
We have a request from...
Have a good evening, all. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
And it's for Tim Healy, but the engineer, Jesse Marino, asked for it, 57 Amherst Street. Lee and Herb, I sent you guys the sketch. wish I could. I can try shutting people off and see what happens here. What happens is I don't know who they are. Maybe they've shut themselves off, but well, let's try this one. Maybe that got it. Okay. So,
I think he did.
okay. This is an approved system. It's way out in the woods. And it's a 5-bedroom house. It's a pump system, a big system, and they've asked to move the system 15 feet to the east. And what happens to it? And we went in afterwards. They were going to try to get rid of the pump design, and we dug a whole bunch of holes that were a little bit downhill from this. This system is kind of on the top of a hill in this area. And all of the holes we dug, I'm guessing we dug 8 more holes. It all was the same materials. The only thing, what this change will end up keeping the 2 perk tests in the SAS, but it makes it so they're really at the western half of this. And my suggestion on this one is that we have a fair size area that we don't know anything about at the east end of this system, would be to approve the change, but just require them when they go in to strip it to dig a deep hole, just to verify the soil is the same there too. And that on my note, I guess the last note I got from the engineer said that he thought that was a very reasonable request if we did that. Lee and Herb, what do you think?
Why do they want to move 15 feet?
You know, he didn't tell me. He asked me if I wanted to go out there and look at it. I suspect it's because his driveway is near that spot. But I didn't ask him that.
Hmm.
It's, if you look at the drawing, you'll see that he's actually sliding it along the contour. It's not like he's obviously trying to hit some different physical location. He's not.
Yeah, 15 feet's not very far.
It's not very far.
No.
I don't have a problem with it doing it, but I would say if we were in a spot like Bob Sheehan was just in, where you've got a field full of sand, I would have said, who cares? But if you go out onto this property, it's possible that stuff changes in that area.
So that being said, when they get to that point, are you going to be called in by the engineer or whomever to observe the new deep hole test?
If you're going in to witness it, I have no trouble going. Just my concern would be that there's ledge, and if they can dig a hole there, and you look in and it's this, it's still for 8 feet or something, that's all I would do. But if you wanted me to go in, I could go in. I don't care. But someone should look at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my concern too, that there could be an outcrop of ledge in that area, which, the chances are not great, but always a potential.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I
as
think
long
it
as-
should look.
Yeah, as long as the engineer is on board with that, and in the event, of course, that something pops up, then it slides back to where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Herb, what is your thought?
I guess that's okay with me. It just seems peculiar. Not going to be inexpensive to do this. 15 feet. Hey, I'll go with you guys.
Okay, Colleen, that's what we'll do. We're gonna let them do it, but we have to do a strip. At the time of the strip, we're gonna want a deep hole dug and witnessed by the board at the east end of the system of the SAS.
Okay.
Neil,
Hi,
how are you?
good. How are you?
Good. We're done with you. We approved it. We're subject, as you said, you've got the drawings in, fill regulations, trench permit, and then prior to the COC submission of the exercise deed notification on the Elgin system.
Yes.
So we're
Okay.
done.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a great
good one.
evening. All right. You
Okay.
too. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
So with that, we've moved to all the way to the 7:30. So we should be able to move through some of this stuff. Let me get this out. So the first one is the minutes. I don't know, Herb, I didn't see that. You normally have something in the minutes. I didn't see any comments from you this week.
And I agree. And I don't think I saw any minutes. So maybe that's why you didn't see any comments from me. Unless I just plain missed it, I didn't get them.
Colleen, can you carry that for the next meeting? We'll approve both of these. And so you think, Herb, you didn't get my comments either?
No, did not get your comments.
So Colleen, if you could send my marked up ones out to Herb.
With it. Yep. Okay.
And then we just won't act. We won't act on these tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
If that's agreeable, Lee.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Next one is I have put my things. I've got Colleen's time sheet. It's the normal 70 hours. Do we have any issue with it?
Move approval.
None.
Yep, me too, Colleen. That's approved.
Okay.
The next one, I have the payments, $410 for board permits, plumbing, haulers, all those, 410. Licenses, we've got 80. Fees, perk tests, it looks like the $1,000 smoking fine for $1,200. And that's it for $1,690. Are we okay with those?
Yes.
Yes.
Me too, Colleen. So that's approved.
Okay.
Just as to be totally correct, the tobacco fine was 1,000, not 1,200. It's 1,200 total there, but
Right.
the fine was 1,000.
That's correct. You're right.
Yep. Yep.
The next one I've got is payment to Quill for the two file hangers for $27.18. Are we okay with that one?
Yes.
Yep.
Me too, Colleen. That's approved.
Okay.
Then we've got, it looks like this is just a COC. So it's a final for 47th South Street. That one is for a tank and D box. The fee was $75. Lee, did you inspect that one?
Um, 47 South. Let me check. Oh, I must have. I don't have my note with me on that. I've been out doing a lot of these, and I can't remember that one, but I will check and call Colleen in the morning. I'm quite sure I did.
So what do we want to do? We want to approve this subject to Lee verifying that he inspected?
Sounds good.
Okay. Lee, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's the best way to go. That way we're not holding anybody up.
Okay. I'm okay with that too. So Colleen, that's what we're going to do it. Approve it,
Okay,
subject to Lee's verification.
okay.
The next, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Title Fives. I'm going to ask if, unless there's a reason that we approve these en group, if we want to call it that. 65 Aldrich Street by Dave Kibbe that passed. 107 New Ludlow Road, Greg Everson passes. 65 Kendall Street, Greg Everson conditionally passes. 139 New Ludlow Road, Neil Jackson passes. 142 School Street, Neil Jackson passes. Lee, are we okay to receive these?
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Herb, are you okay?
Received.
Okay, Colleen, me too.
Okay,
On group, all of them. Next one we have a question on Cold Hill. Herb, at least I've driven by the place a couple times. It's kind of close to you. You may, I don't know how you feel about it, but I personally would be concerned with a potential conflict with being close enough to your house that someone could say, hey, Herb turned this down because he didn't want a house built 2 houses away. But that's up to you whether you think that it concerns you.
It does not concern me. What concerned me was the realtor misconstruing where this lot was. They first misconstrued it to be on Cold Hill Lane, in the midst of several existing houses, and then described it as being adjacent to South Hadley, which, of course, it isn't. That's what bothered me about this.
I have got concerns about this one, that we've got a well that I guess we can, that one you could test the water, but we've got a septic system that was installed 14, 15 years ago. Who
Correct.
knows whether you've got trees growing in the middle of it, and you've got the other thing, if on the drawing that was submitted, Bob Sheehan had said that it looked to him that some pins were wrong. It had the way the system's set up, it's a flag in that lot that was not the original lot. Who knows I don't know if it's even been surveyed, and there are pins that whether this thing is, who knows whether the neighbor is taking over the land. It just concerns me. It would, from my standpoint, I'd like to be saying we have to get an engineer in there to verify that it's on the property, and then to do a system investigation to see what kind of condition it's in.
Could I interject?
Yeah, not yet, please.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That wouldn't bother me at all, Dick. It's interesting to note that someone has been there the last few days. I don't know who. I didn't stop to talk with them, but someone has their car pulled in there, and they've been walking the land.
So Lee, have you got any
It-
concerns with
Is this the property adjacent to Cold Hill Drive, the field on the right-hand side?
No.
No. Kathy Kelly Reagan's house and several other houses are south of this piece of property, and north of the property, 126, I think, was just sold within the last few months.
So if I go into Cold Hill Drive,
you've passed
it
it?
goes down
That's not,
past it,
yes. So
and it's on the left hand, same side of the street as your house, sir, on the left.
it's on the same side of the street that we're on, yes.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
It-
Okay.
It's right, it's the property one place south of 126, which was just sold.
So if you
Oh,
look at
that
it,
was. I know where you are. That was. That was the Special Forces, Max Bowers, his property.
Correct.
But anyway,
Max Bauer.
But yeah, but obviously the concerns are legitimate. That we have a well put in 2004 and a septic system 2007. Again, the concerns of location on whose property it is, whether some pins have been moved or not moved, and what condition well and septic is in, and it seems backwards. The well part I get, the septic part I don't get, because usually that's one of the last things that you put into a house is the septic. But anyway, I would agree that we need an outside agency or two to verify what we have here for all parties concerned.
Gail, now you can speak.
Okay. So help me understand, because this system was passed by the town. It was installed it was a Mr. Bronco's property. He put this system in because they were going to put the house in, as he says, for his parents, but something happened, so the house never got in, but the system had been installed. My question was, I was just trying to verify that there were no issues with that, having that system put in back in 2007, I guess is what you said. And I hear what you're saying. You don't know. The boundary lines are quite clearly marked on this property, according to the owner. So I'm not too sure about why there's boundary issues there. So maybe you can just help me understand that.
Oh, sure, because I'm the one that just brought it up, is that on the design itself, it even states that there are issues with a pin or pins, but in reality, we don't, just because the owner says, believe me, it's all straight, that doesn't mean anything. Unless he's a surveyor and licensed, he nor we are capable of knowing whether it's legally, drawn out, whether the neighbor is encroached on it if it was done. We don't know anything. We don't know. It's something that's buried in the ground for 14 years, never been used, have no idea whether a truck drove over it and broke something. We just don't know. And so what we're saying is we need to have someone who's got a license to look at that thing and say, yep, that is in the legal place that it's supposed to be, and it's in a condition that it can be used, that the Mother Nature hasn't started its plan to take it over. And in 15 years, I know when I look across the street from my house, what's happened in 15 years. So we just say someone that's licensed to do that has to be intelligent. It may be perfect, but we don't know.
So is the town going to do that, or are you asking the owner to do that? That's my question. He really didn't bring this up. I had a question from a buyer, and that's why I asked the town board of health about the system being already installed. You know, if there was any issues with that. I had assumed that it was in the proper place because it was passed by the town. So, you know, and
Right,
they have inspections, so I assumed that everything was in its proper place. It's not overgrown. It's well manicured where the leach field is. The owner has put pins, but of course that's the owner, so I can only go by what the owner has indicated to me.
Yeah, so what we're saying, Gail, is that from the Board of Health standpoint, that I can tell you, I looked at the design, and I looked at it, I said, gee, is this an issue that we could have a water table problem? Looks like not. It looked like I was the one that witnessed it early on. It's on there, called out as models. It even saw weeping lower than that. And my guess is everything was right. So we're really just saying, after having something in the ground and unused for 14 years, we're saying someone's before the Board of Health is going to say, okay, you can use it, that an engineer needs to be saying, yeah, this thing is a functional septic system.
So Robert Sheehan, who did the design, is he the person that you would want to look at it?
From my standpoint, I don't. I'm looking at someone that's got a license to be able to say that this actually wasn't installed in a way that it looks like it was right, which it was inspected, so that the issue is it in fact in the legal spot, and is it, the same as a brand new system ready to go? But someone that's got that license, I don't think, from my standpoint, I don't think we can be telling the owner or you who they have to hire to do that. It just needs to be someone with a license that's capable of looking at the system, and not a Title V. This is not a Title V inspection. This is a sanitarian or an engineer that's got the license to say, yeah, I designed septic systems, and this is as good as it was when it went in.
Okay, and just so that I know, if the owner asked me, what would they have to do to confirm that the system is okay? Look at the septic tank, or what's the requirement there?
I would, if I were, it's a bad thing to be having us tell an engineer. What really should be.
I just asked a question if there was any limitations on the system, and clearly it's getting very involved, and I'm going to have an owner who's going to maybe have some objections. I don't know. I just wanted to know, so I didn't misrepresent anything.
Well, the things you'd want to know is, in fact, is the tank in good shape? Are the pipes that go out of it to the leach field in good shape? Are there things growing and roots going down into the leaching facility? Is it in the right spot, legally on the property? And does it look? I would guess somebody's going to probably want to dig up the D box and probably run a camera from the tank into the D box, and maybe the D box running down into some of those lines. That's what I would guess.
Okay. This is something that would need to be done prior to a sale, or to the person who purchases this?
Herb and Lee, we don't tell
We
people
can't
that they can
guarantee
buy or
it.
sell things.
They can buy whatever they want. Whether they can use it or not, Gail, is the issue.
Yeah. Okay,
I
so
mean,
what you're saying is you really don't know, and that for this owner.
It might be
it's
absolutely perfect, and it could be absolutely worthless. We need help to help you and your client determine that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, when these systems are put in, several holes are dug and they're logged. We need to know as Dick pointed out earlier, is it in the proper location, as is the well. And we ought to also be considerate of, and I'm sure it was done, but who knows, the neighbors. Have any neighbors been working on their wells or septics, and have they been moved at all? Maybe not even aware that this was there. I mean, there's a bunch of little things that need to be addressed, and it may be for nothing, but it needs to be done. I hate to have somebody spend X amount of dollars and find out that they need to spend $24,000 more. That's a surprise they don't want.
A new well was dug on the adjacent Bauer property a few years ago.
Ah,
Okay, so there's case in point.
yeah, if
And that's
you,
What is that the 126 that you're saying the new well was put in, or?
Yes, 126. A new well was put in maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, to do that, they would have had to have checked out the septic system, no? Or that you don't think they would have done that?
They may not. No one may have known that it was actually there, Gail.
Okay,
Since
got
it
it.
was,
All right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's just some land with some grass going on, you don't assume that there's something there.
Mm-hmm. All right.
my guess,
But
if you're just guessing, it's a guess. I'm gonna guess everything's okay. But we can't do business that way.
Yeah. I just thought since it went through the Board of Health that there, I just didn't know if there was a time limitation, but clearly there's some concerns. So I'll address that with the owner so that he can move forward so that he's satisfying your concerns.
And I think at the end of the day, Gail, when we prove that everything is where it should be and how it should be, it adds value to what you've got, rather than adding problems to what you've got.
Yeah, well, certainly the owner feels it adds value, so I will help him confirm that so that I encourage him to confirm it. So I'm very good.
Yeah,
I
so what
appreciate your help there.
if you look at where the problem will end up coming, Gail, if in terms of you and what you're selling, the problem will come when the person who wants to build on the property wants to say, hey, we'd like to use this. And then these questions are going to have to be answered. So it's not a slam dunk. You just bought a lot with $30,000 worth of improvements on it that you don't have to make. And and it's actually important because if you look at that property, I think you're going to find out that we couldn't find any place to perk on that property that was given at that time. You couldn't use the B horizon, the subsoil, as part of the 4 feet of naturally occurring material, and now you can. So I can't guarantee that the property doesn't have any other place to put a system. But clearly, when we went there, you can see the lot lines were redone to get that little spot into this current lot. So it's really important to get this thing done right.
Oh, I don't disagree. Normally, it would have been handled in an inspection period that the buyers would have had, and so their inspector, that would have been part of their inspection. But I was just asking the question just for my own knowledge, but obviously it's much more involved than I had anticipated. I thought I could get a yes, no, and now I see we have to do more work, and so I'll certainly bring that to the owner.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time.
Okay. Good night.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night. You too. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is Maven reporting for Northampton. And that, it looked like we have to choose with our shared services agreement. It looks like the choice is don't have them involved at all. The next one is we'll handle Maven kind of work unless we need help, and then we'll call you for help. And the third one is we're not going to do Maven at all. We'll have everything go right to Northampton. And Herb, is that the Lee? Are those the three options that it looks like we have?
I think those were the options, Dick. Yes.
So which one? If I were just choosing one, I would be choosing the middle one. So Herb and Lee, what are you thinking?
Herb, you got a lot into this topic, way more than me. I'm thinking Dick's middle option is right, but I want to please get your input on this.
Well, I don't know which one of these is right. I think we are not epidemiologists. We are not data processors. We don't have an excess of people to process data, process whatever is going to come. I quite frankly don't see why we want to do this. If they've got trained people who are going to have access to the data, can do the follow-up, and I'm not disparaging Colleen at all. I mean, my goodness, Colleen is so involved with everyone in town, as I would attest to even my conversations with Colleen today about some sick youngster. I guess if I were to choose, I would let Northampton do it. Since we are in a shared services arrangement with them.
I do have a couple concerns with it. One is that it's not a matured relationship yet. So handing everything over when we don't have a good feeling for what happens or what's going to happen. The other is, at least with COVID going, I am plotting stuff every single day that comes out of Maven. And I don't know how I'm going to get that information from Northampton, the way Colleen can get that. And I'm just not sure that on the upside, I guess, Herb, you're right, is you've got someone that's really trained in receiving the thing. But on the downside, we may end up not getting the services that we necessarily need. And if we tried it out and try to give them the information and see how it works, then I could see that you say, okay, let's switch it in the future.
So should we give them, I mean, are we thinking about a 4 to 6 week trial here? Or will they let us do that for, an interim period of time to see how it works out?
Well, I would think that would be very reasonable, Lee. I think 4 to 6 weeks probably isn't long enough. But I would be very much in favor of that, with the disclaimer that if we're unhappy, we will reclaim our opportunity to deal with this data. But before we go further, I'd like to ask Colleen what her thought is about this. She's actively involved with people in town and following up and trying to get the best data for us and trying to understand what's happening in households and trying to understand who's infected within households, whether the spread is vaccinated people or unvaccinated. So I think she's pretty heavily involved in all this right now. Colleen, what's your sense?
Well, I know you can change your mind at any time. That's what they've said. So we can change, those options. My only concern, and I'm glad to have them help and all, I'm a little concerned that there are a lot of towns that they are in, trying to help, and that, yes, how quickly, if they have, some towns don't have anyone doing their Maven now, and they had sent everything to contact tracing, whereas I was doing kind of like the middle option there. If I needed help, if I got a lot of cases, I would send some to contact tracing. I would do, what I felt I could handle with everything else. So that would be fine with me, or if you wanted to go with the full coverage, that would be fine. But I'm just a little concerned, like how quickly, if they have a lot of other towns that they're helping, I know they have a lot of other towns, how quickly they'd get to the people and the information to, like you said, Dick. So that would be my concern. Whereas if we kept with option B, the middle option, we kind of say, okay, do these, I'll do these, that. But either way is fine. With
The
me.
other piece of data that we have is that, and it may not be the same group, but Nancy Jenks says that working with Northampton to get these COVID clinics is very difficult compared to even working directly with the state. And so I'm just concerned with jumping in full blast as compared with try it. If it works, we could switch, we could crank it up. And that's just, again, when we vote on it, I will not support the all, going all right now. But that's okay. That's okay. That's my opinion. And that's why there's 3 of us.
I'm sorry. Your comment about how you're going to vote is what?
I would be voting for the middle one. And so if we did, I don't know how we want to vote vote for it. But if we say option 1, 2, 3, maybe we just say how many vote for 1 being nothing, how many vote for 2. Maybe it's good straw poll right now to see where we are. And so if 1 is no support, 2 is support as needed, and 3 is total Northampton, where do we stand if we're just, Herb, you're a 3 right now.
I'd like to hear a little more from you, Dick. You said I'm not sure I understood what you said. You were intimating we ought to try 2, and if that didn't work, that's the way I was interpreting what you said, then we might think about 3, but I'm not sure that's what you said.
No, in fact, I didn't actually. What I was thinking is saying if 2 in fact worked, I'm hoping, I think 1 is crazy. 2, I think will work. And if it works and we say, this is good enough, this is great, we could even gain more by getting more help, I would certainly be willing to entertain going to 3. I'm reluctant to go to 3 and have us find out that doesn't work and then move back to 2. I'd rather go opposite. And it sounded like Colleen was kind of saying that same thing.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dick. Yeah. Yeah.
Based upon what I've heard, that middle option for the trial period seems to make the most sense at this point in time until we know more.
I'd even like to go a little further than where Colleen was saying. I would like to actively try to use them to see if we can make this work, because I'm still leaning at where Herb is saying it's looking at a desired future state. The desired future state, in my mind, is to get the qualified people doing the right things. And that would be 3 would be the desired future state in my mind. But to make it sure that it's working, then we would have to say, Colleen, let's try to use them a lot more than we're using them right now. And to see if we can, put some strain on the system and see if they can, in fact, provide the service that we want. Then when we jump to 3, we know what we're jumping to. That's Herb. I don't know. Am I clear, Herb, and trying to explain that?
Yes, I think that you've clarified your position. Since we're in a shared services arrangement, we do want to show good faith in adhering to a concept of shared services. And I think if it is presented in that way, that we'd like to use a combined approach with the ideal of moving ultimately to professionally managed data, which I anticipate, if this really works the way Meredith and others are talking about, really having data managers, really having epidemiologists, to have professional management, I think is much the ideal. But I can go along with describing to Northampton that we want to combine the way we're looking at our Maven cases with the ultimate idea in the future of moving to a fully managed system, not a dispersed managed system, which is going to be okay in some places because Colleen's good, but it's not going to be okay in other places. So the data is going to be sketchy.
Colleen, could you support that? So from your standpoint, it is going to at the very beginning, it's going to be more work for you because you're going to have to be the person that's really forming that relationship with them. You're going to have to be on things that you would say, gee, I could just do that myself anyways. That you're going to have to reach out and say, you know, I'm going to ask them to do this to see if we can form this relationship that
Yes, absolutely. That's fine. That would be, yeah, I'll do that.
What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page that we're going to at least increase our involvement with Northampton with the anticipation that if it goes really well, which we hope that it's going to, then we can jump in full force, maybe, I don't know, maybe end of January if it goes really well. If I'm anticipating what I've heard from you and Colleen and Herb, if we're all heading in that direction.
I think Herb is right when he says it's going to take longer, but
I think it's definitely going to take longer to understand how this data is going to be managed. So I would not be in favor of putting a timeline on it right now.
Okay.
But this is something that we...
we can go in open-ended, right?
Yes, and continually query Colleen about how the relationship is working, because Colleen is on the point here. Colleen is really the point person. And if she says, I can't deal with those people in Northampton, that's one thing. And if she says, gosh, there is a nurse manager and a data person that are dynamite, that are so helpful, then that would be another bit of data to consider. But I think we're going to need time to find out whether that's the case.
Okay, it sounds like we're there, and what our beliefs are. Who is the one that wants to? Do we want to let Herb? Do you want to be the one that communicates with Meredith? Do you want it to be Colleen just filling out that form?
Well, I think Colleen can fill out the form, but I think you as chairman of the board need to put some teeth in it.
Okay. Then I will do that. Then I will get in touch with Meredith and I'll explain exactly what we've just said. And let's see where we go. Okay, the next one is on the list is the residential kitchen permit for bread. Now, is bread one of the foods that doesn't need a special permit because it's it's not the right food that can make people sick, or is this, it needs a permit? Anything needs a permit.
Well, I think any food can make some people sick. So bread can be contaminated with mold, with bacteria, with whatever.
Rat poison, what?
Could be contaminated with anything.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is our business to tell Amherst how they should administer their rules on foods.
But if you've got a commercial kitchen in our town, I think our town's required to regulate the kitchen, right?
This is a residential kitchen. That was my understanding. Someone's baking in their house. It's not a commercial kitchen.
Colleen, is that where they?
Retail residential kitchen. Well, they're, yes, they're baking in their home and they want to bring it to their cafe that they own in Amherst. So baked good, I don't know, retail residential kitchen, including baked goods, jellies and jams, or is it a wholesale residential kitchen that you bring and sell it somewhere else? I don't know. It's kind of strange because it's her cafe that she's bringing it to. So
Look, the same thing happened here in Granby at Evelyn's, at her farm. Her sister was baking cookies at her house and bringing them to Evelyn's to sell. This is long before I was ever on the board, and it was stopped because there was no way to regulate, and that's within Granby. So she had to bake them at Evelyn's place. Why does it have anything to do with us, what is sold in Amherst?
It would be if the woman who owns the kitchen is saying, I want to bake stuff in my kitchen in Granby to put for sale someplace. If she's requesting it, but Herb is absolutely right. Amherst is the place that's allowing this stuff to be sold.
Right.
Amherst should be telling her, you can't do that unless you've got a license for the kitchen. So if
that's why I'm saying, why are we even discussing this?
so she doesn't need anything from us then, from the board, I mean?
no,
Not our
Amherst.
business. It's Amherst's business.
however, if she comes to you, Colleen, because Amherst says you can't sell this stuff here, I need to have a kitchen license, then it becomes us to give the license. But if she's not asking it, Herb is right. You know, it's Amherst that's supposed to be saying this is not an approved food.
Correct.
I mean, is she the one that asked?
She asked, yeah. She said, can I bake this bread in my kitchen? What permit do I need to bake this bread so I can bring it to my cafe in Amherst?
That is ridiculous. That has nothing to do with us. Can we move on?
Okay.
But she asked Colleen a question. Amherst has to tell her whether she needs a license to sell food in her town. And if she says, I can't sell this without a license, then we have to work on a license.
Okay.
You understand what Herb is saying, Colleen? What Herb is saying is we can't tell this woman what Amherst wants. So Amherst has to be the one that says you can't serve this stuff unless you're licensed.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Okay. I get it now. Okay.
Okay.
I hope everyone understands this is exactly what I wrote in my email.
Yes. Other COVID issues. I guess today, not the time to talk about masks again. Our numbers have turned. They're on their way up. The state numbers are terrible, terrible. And probably not the week to talk about making everybody wear masks again, but I'll bet after Thanksgiving we get something to talk about.
This has got to be one of the most frustrating issues to deal with. I mean, it's totally terrible. People won't. There are 25% of the people that are not going to adhere to anything that we have to say, period. And that's why I was asking Colleen if we could get any handle on the transmission within households of immunized versus non-immunized individuals. And, maybe there's a little suggestion, but it's not enough to hang your hat on. People who are immunized are infecting their family members. People who are not immunized are infecting their family members. And I'm sure everyone else. And I hope you saw the email that I wrote within the last couple of days about measles. We've been immunizing against measles for decades. And, people who are immunized against measles can still transmit measles. They're not getting measles, but they can transmit the virus. This is a very, very complicated, difficult, convoluted mess that everyone is in. So sorry, Dick, I didn't mean to just ramble there, but it's hard to make mandated policy out of this hodgepodge of data.
Well, little Granby's not going to be the one, I think, that turns the state.
I hope not. I certainly hope not. I don't want my house firebombed.
No. And at some point, as the data gets worse and worse, somebody will be doing something because the problem's going to be bigger than Granby.
Well, the data is going to get worse and worse in the communities and states where people are not immunized at all, because those people are getting really sick and they're getting hospitalized and they're going into intensive care units and they're dying. And where there's a large percentage of the population that's immunized, it's going to be less of an issue.
How about Colleen, mail, emails, phone calls? Okay.
No, Don't think I have anything else.
I did get in touch with Sharon Hart about septic reviews. Sharon, in fact, does do her own, but she said there are only a few septic systems in South Hadley. There, I think she said in some of the hills and along the river. But she did say that Belchertown and I think she told me Northampton. I'll have to look at it. Was using Charlie Kanicki to do reviews. Haven't talked to Charlie, but I don't think Charlie is retired from the state, and he's retired. He's older, and I don't see that that's a self-sustaining approach either, to get a guy that's just kind of moonlighting in different towns. Oh,
You're also retired.
that's true. That's true. And older than Charlie.
And older. So, yeah, South Hadley doesn't have much of this.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's almost a non-issue there. If we had one of these a month, it'd be a non-issue here,
I know.
but we don't. So with the greatest possible personal respect, I think you shouldn't be doing these. We should be paying an outside group to review them.
Maybe what I can do is go to Charlie and say, we are looking for a group, and maybe he's can get me the name of a group that would do that. So we're not dependent on only Charlie. So let me give that for a shot.
Sounds terrific.
Lori McCool does this. I'm not sure if it's for a couple towns, but I know from speaking with her when I was with Neil Jackson at 146 Taylor Street, she mentioned this. But just throwing it out there, there are a couple engineers getting at the retirement age who want to keep dabbling with it, but don't want to be married to a desk all day long either.
Yeah. My preference is to get into something that's going to be there 20 years from now, that we can get a system in place that is, again, dealing with another engineer who's retired and said, for the next 5 years, I'll do this, is not self-sustaining. Now, maybe we don't worry about after 5 years. But let me at least talk and find out what is out there. Because I agree with her that this is, it's a pain in the neck. It's a lot of work. The town we're just kidding the town. We're getting, I'm giving them a free service. It's just, we're just not putting the system in place.
And that's what bothers me. It bothers me, Dick.
Yeah.
And I would not intimate for a minute that you're not a total pro at this. But why are we subsidizing the town of Granby in this way?
No. And when I'm gone, we leave a hole. That's just nothing is there.
That's right.
So I will do that.
I bring up one other thing. I would respectfully ask Colleen to continue to follow up on some youngster that has gotten very sick here in town. And I think he was COVID positive. Was he not COVID positive, Colleen?
Yeah, he's not from town though, so.
Oh, he's not from town.
No, he's not. Oh, that's why I didn't have all the information
I
Right.
see. Okay.
at my
Okay.
fingertips, but he was, yes, he has been very sick, yes.
I'm misunderstanding. But here's a desperately ill youngster. And that's the kind of thing that just frightens the heck out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I talked to Colleen, I think before you got on, Herb, that I had a couple calls from Nancy Jenks this weekend, and she's struggling with the positives that are coming into the schools and getting contacts now that she's working on in the schools, and it's well, you can see if you look at the positives and the cases that get published every day, you see the monster numbers that are in the 0 to 20 year groups. They're monster numbers.
Right. Well, I hope there's a way to get boosters to all of our adults and everyone else that wants a booster. This is not a disease to play around with.
No.
It's just people have to take it seriously, and they're not taking it seriously enough. A lot of people aren't. Many people are. Most people are. But there's enough people that aren't that makes it difficult for everyone.
So, with that, I guess we're about done, and everybody have a good and a safe. Try to have a safe Thanksgiving.
Right.
You too.
Yeah. Same to everyone. I hope everyone is happy with the holiday and safe. Stay safe.